Okay, hello everybody. I'm Carrie Mayu. I am Director of Strategic Initiatives at Hutchinson Community Foundation. And I'm so excited today to premiere a new web series from the Community Foundation called the Changemaker Chat. On what we hope will be a monthly series, we're going to be highlighting the collaborators and innovators who are hard at work in Reno County, the ones that are doing the work of exercising leadership in the gap on our daunting challenges and our greatest opportunities, and the ones who are helping us move forward toward a more connected, resilient, and thriving Reno County for all people. Our first guests today are David Foster from the Hutchinson YMCA and Lance Patterson from the Boys and Girls Club of Hutchinson. Both of them have long tenures with their organizations. And we're excited to talk to them today about what they're doing together around collaboration, but even more so, how and why they're doing it. Kind of what's the magic sauce underneath collaboration and innovation in our community? What does it look like behind the scenes and behind the stories in our community? So, thank you guys for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
So first off, tell us a little bit about what you are working on together.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can start off. And I guess the biggest thing that we've started partnering on, one is the Saturday Night at the Y, the middle school nightly program that meets on the second Saturday of every night at the Y. And they've been really helpful with that and providing staff to support that. And then we've got some other things that are taking place too, just some partnerships on different programs and swimming at the Y and things of that nature. But those seem to be the big things now. And then of course we're looking at some bigger ticket items as we look down the road, I think, for sure.
Yeah. We had one of the former HCC football players that's now playing in the NFL. So we partnered to bring him back to Hutch and put on a football camp and for over 100 kids, and just looking at ways that we can serve the kids in the community in a better way.
Yeah, so we hear from parents, but also youth, that like there's nothing to do for kids in Hutchinson and Reno County. So talk a little bit more about like how do you come up with the programming ideas and what does it take to put on something like that?
Yeah. Well, I think, I know speaking specifically to Saturday Night at the Y, it was something that, the Y had offered here before in the past, and it wasn't wildly successful. I would say the numbers weren't very good. And one of the things I quickly noticed was no one else really knew about the program, maybe in town, regardless of why that was. So Lance was very receptive to get around the table. And of course, both school districts and Hutch Rec and some other community partners were really willing, more than anything, I think, to just help get the word out. And I know Lance has a great quote on, Hutch is too small not to work together. And I think he's right on when he says that, but it's also big enough that organizations can work together to make sure, not to duplicate a lot of services, but what are services where we each have some expertise and some already maybe making some inroads in the community, and how can we partner together to make that experience even better. And maybe, and I know having the Boys and Girls Club involved with Saturday Night at the Y, that just brings a lot of kids to the table that otherwise may not have known about it. But again, it allows both organizations and even other community partners to serve those kids, which I think has been very beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. We also look at what are the kids wanting, and so gymnastics is a big thing that a lot of our families were, there was a few that would do it, and some of them that were, oh yeah, I wish I could, and it's so hard to get them there for practice, and the cost is sometimes too much, and so we talked with the Y and said, oh, what if we just created some type of a trial run, so to speak, and just fairly inexpensive. We take them, and bring them back. And so it happens kind of during that club time. And, and David's like, yeah, that sounds great. And so we started that, and, just trying different ways to maybe, overcome some of those barriers that we hear from parents. And so, that's been a lot of fun to try to figure it out.
So how would you describe your shared purpose?
Well, I think for both of our organizations, we're here to serve the community. And so there's really a lot of overlap in kind of our missions. And so when you look at that, and that you can see where those things align. And, so being able to provide opportunities to as many kids as possible in a way that's positive and surrounded by caring adults that want the best for kids, well, that's a pretty easy thing to get behind. So.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It's just been, like he said, just so many similarities in our missions and the fact that we want to serve kids and the why. And I know the Boys and Girls Club we both have funds available to help people, based on their financial situation. So neither organization ever wants to turn anybody away based on their financial situation or payment being a barrier. We have ways to work through that and make these types of programs and services available to everybody.
Can you give us the origin story of kind of how you got to that point of being able to see the alignment in your mission and the possibilities there of collaboration? Like, we know that relationships are kind of at the heart and are primary generally for collaboration. So how has your relationship developed? What are the habits you've put to work?
Yeah, so I think you bring that up, the relationships, and there wasn't as strong a relationship with the Y prior to David coming in, and so where we maybe saw where there was some alignment and stuff like that, it just never really came about, and as soon as David came into the community, he wanted to get out, meet people, like look for ways that the Y could support what was already going on in the community. And so, the willingness to kind of put himself out there and say, hey, let's have coffee, let's sit down and talk. And, I think really helps build some of that trust that it really takes to be able to work together and, helps build that relationship. And so we can, we're not worried that if something doesn't work, okay, we tried it, it didn't work, we'll try something else, and so I think that's just been really helpful. It is kind of crazy how so much of it comes down to the people for it to be successful. So.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And then kudos to Skip and now Lance, for being open and receptive to that conversation, because they didn't necessarily, they didn't know me at all, and they knew a little bit about the why, but again, right, wrong, or indifferent, just maybe not being at the table and around some of those discussions, or even being willing to put the organization out in the community in the past may have kind of built some natural barriers and natural walls, and as Lance said, it just boils down to trust, and making sure that that our missions do align and that we can share what those are and be open and transparent. And like he said, if we try something that doesn't work, hey, that's okay. We tried it and it didn't work, but let's try something else and let's figure this out. Let's keep throwing something against the wall, and finally, something will probably stick, and it may be something that we thought of it initially, and it may be something that just kind of naturally evolves over time. So I think just being open to both those concepts, I think, is very helpful.
So how do you have those conversations when something doesn't work? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I don't know. I think, and it's probably true for David too, but whenever you're working with kids or working with people, there's probably going to be a lot of things that don't work. So we're used to things not working. And so I think that makes it a little easier because that's just kind of part of our jobs. Is, always trying to find another way or a different way that we can, have that impact that we're looking for. And so that, to me, that comes kind of naturally as like, well, let's try this. Okay, well, we tried that 5 years ago, it didn't work, but what did we learn from that? Let's try it again. It might be better this year than it was then. And so just continually just trying change things up and
Yeah.
and look for different ways of doing kind of the same things. But so I think that helps because our organizations are similar, but then there's a lot of differences also. And so how do we capitalize on those similarities and really do something that's going to make the biggest impact?
Yeah. So, in thinking about what you've learned so far, what would you say is working well right now? Like, what have you hit on that is really speaking to the youth that you're serving?
Well, I definitely think, having the kids come over and swim at the Y, and some of that was going on a little bit in the past, but that's sort of where our jumping off point was, is let's get that back up and running. We know that can happen. We know we've done it. We know that's something that can kind of kick this off. And I think sometimes, we're looking way down the road and maybe talking about sharing some facility space and doing all this stuff. But I think sometimes you don't realize just how the little things, the simple things that are really easy to do can turn into the big things happening later on. And I think to Lance's point earlier, it's just about building that relationship and the trust. And to your previous question, it's just about the communication, just being willing to say, hey, that didn't work, or maybe we need to tweak this, and going, you're probably right. Let's give that a shot. But I think just being willing and open to have those conversations and start something small, and before you know it, the swimming went well, and that's how we kind of came up with the gymnastics and swim lesson idea, and then Saturday night the Y is kind of taken on a life of its own outside of all that, which has been awesome. But I think those two things, I think it would just be the after school, and even we're going to do some stuff this summer for the kids, the club kids at the Y, and then also just the Saturday night the Y collaboration so far, I think has been, if that's all that ever came out of this,
Right.
I think it would be a win.
And it wasn't anything huge, it wasn't a really complicated thing. It was very simple. Just, hey, we're going to bring 10 kids and let them swim. The pool's there, there's a lifeguard, and we'll let the kids have some fun, and, and just see what happens from there. But, everybody had an opportunity for a win.
Yeah.
In that situation, the kids were having a great time. The pool's being used. There's the Y's happy. We're happy because the kids are getting some new and different opportunity. And so I think looking for that easy, low hanging fruit is really kind of the important piece. To get things started.
You are speaking to this. Have a big shiny thing that you do and it's all worked out to launch it. How do you build that muscle in an organization or with a collaboration how do you build up that willingness to try something together, not knowing if it's going to work out?
I think that's a good question. But, I would say that taking the time, like you have to give time for things to kind of go. So if you say, well, we're going to do this and we got to have it planned out and done in a month, well, it's going to be harder to make it happen. I mean, it almost has to just there's no end really, and we're just going to, what can we do first, and just focus on that first little step, and then kind of see where it goes. And I think in some of the experiences I've had in the past is there was always a restraint in time, that this is going to happen now, but then as soon as that time's over, okay, now we go our separate ways, and there's no continuation. And so I think just having the opportunity to do something that there's really no end in sight. I don't know how far it'll go or what it'll grow into, but like David said, if it's only just Saturday nights at the Y and swimming and some gymnastics, well, great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really answering your question, but I guess when I don't have an answer to a question, I'll just answer a question.
That was good. Yeah. And I think we've already talked about it, but I think it just goes back to both organizations' mission, which is way bigger than Lance or I or any of our staff, which that's really important. But then you just go with you've already got two organizations that have a strong mission and a heart for serving kids and serving the community, and then you just find ways that you can kind of mesh those together. And it usually, like I say, it didn't take us very long to figure out what some of those things could be. Even like you said, the low hanging fruit or the easy, not that they're easy, but just the things that were pretty simple to get started. And then, like I say, I think those can continue to build on, but like you said, there's probably no end to the partnership now or to the shared services. It's probably just going to be, I can only see it growing, not going the other direction.
So in that spirit of continuing to figure out where this might go, you mentioned perhaps some shared space or bigger opportunities. One thing we've been learning over the last few years about how collaboration is a gift. It's not easy. It requires time, to go to coffee, to go golfing, whatever. But even having the space to see where your mission aligns with another organization and having the kind of freedom, time, resources to explore it, that can be a gift for an organization.
Sure.
So when you think about what's possible between your organizations moving forward, what would help you? What would a gift look like for you too?
So time,
Yeah.
I think is the key thing that you brought up, and so we've done our research and looked around, and there are actually some examples of Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCA's sharing the same buildings and having their programs operate independently but within the same facility. There's opportunities for schools and YMCA's to operate and share facilities, and so I think those types of things are really intriguing to us as we look at and know that the Y here is looking at like needing a new building and really upping the what they can offer in the community, and so how can that new building make the biggest impact, right? And so does it involve other organizations, like the Boys and Girls Club? And so I think, being given the opportunity to go and visit some of those places, so you can sit down and talk with, the directors, the people that utilize it, the community a little bit, and see what their experience has been like, what we can learn from that, how we can bring back some of those ideas and build upon what's already there instead of trying to recreate the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we both benefit by the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club, even though we have a lot of autonomy here in Hutchinson in both respects, that we're part of a big national organization that has lots of resources and lots of other locations. Like Lance mentioned, there is one in Wisconsin that recently just, I think it was an old shopping mall, and the community really didn't know what to do with that, and it turned out that it became a shared space that Lance was talking about. Kind of one end is the YMCA entrance, the other end is the Boys and Girls Club, and in the middle is a lot of shared space and programming and things of that nature, which again would be very beneficial to Hutch. And then, like he mentioned, as we're both organizations are looking for to expand their footprint. A lot of things can happen with collaborations, as far as not all of us having to go out and build a whole new YMCA or a whole new Boys and Girls Club. There's models, there's examples out there, and even high schools and middle schools that are connected to YMCA's and Boys and Girls Clubs and that type of thing. So we're hoping one day people are traveling here to Hutchinson to see what we've done and what we've been able to garner from other partnerships and other collaborations. But those are just some of the things that I think that can be really beneficial, but could benefit us too, and being able to use some funding or use those resources to, like Lance said, go and check those out, and really take time to not only visit with the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Clubs, but to be able to be in the community and talk to people in the community and see how that's benefiting their city and their community. I think it would just be a big deal. Yeah.
From the people that are utilizing it to the people that donated to make it happen. What was their motivation for supporting that?
Mhm.
You know, what really got them excited about
Yeah.
creating this opportunity for their community. So,
Cool.
yeah,
I'm a big fan of field trips.
Yeah.
that's right. Everybody loves
Yeah.
a field trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't found one in Hawaii yet.
Oh,
Hopefully
sorry.
there'll be one sometime
Oh.
soon. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you can inspire that in
Yes.
the future. Yeah. And then go visit them and yeah,
Yes.
all that. Well, cool. Okay. So we are actually going to create that gift into a grant opportunity and post it to our new Giving Together platform on the Community Foundation's website, so that you will have an opportunity to support this collaboration and continued experimentation and
Nice.
innovation.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
exciting. Yeah. So to kind of close us out, I'm curious how you each would answer this question. The last few years, especially in the nonprofit community, we've been talking about how if we could articulate a shared vision for Hutchinson and Reno County, what would that be? And three words that have come to the top that seem to capture a lot of what a lot of our organizations are going for and what people are asking for is connected, resilient, and thriving.
Mhm.
So I'm curious from each of your perspectives, what does a connected, resilient, and thriving Reno County look like?
Where there's less emphasis on who is doing the activity and more on all of the activities that are available. Whether that's, resources, whether that's, childcare, whether that's, after school, recreational opportunities, whatever it is, that it's not about the who, but it's more about the what.
Mhm. I would totally agree. Yeah, and the focus, going back to Lance's point about Hutch being a little too small to just have siloed uh, organizations just doing little things here and there. It's the focus has got to be on the residents and specifically on what we do on the youth in the community to create those opportunities, to create those facilities, to create things that will make people not only enjoy living here but want to continue living here and come back and raise their families here in Hutchinson because they know they've got strong community leaders and strong organizations that will allow their family and their kids to experience the great things that they were able to experience here in Hutchinson and Reno County as well. So I think as we both talk a lot, we're always looking not necessarily for what we're going to be able to get out of this, but what our kids and maybe their kids' kids will benefit from some of these types of partnerships and collaborations years down the road.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So until next month, intentionally make connections, stay curious, and keep open to what more is possible when we work together for the future of Reno County and Hutchinson. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.